Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here, basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is city creation. In city creation, basically, we are going to discuss about the accounts, that is the India account. So, in this, basically, we are discussing one topic that is SBI bank account. With SBI bank account means SBI group bank accounts. Then, second number is Amazon group. That basically almost basically everybody has discussed. It's a big achievement basically by the Amazon basically. So here basically we have discussed lots of things basically, but then also basically few things are left. So that also we are going to discuss. Now basically topic is after 2 days basically the earthquake is going to happen, and this is the most dangerous topic basically. If earthquake will come, assume that basically big earthquake basically happened in this world basically, nothing is going to be there, anything basically is going to there, not nothing basically, anything is going to be there. Then one person told that nothing basically, it will be I think blank basically. So that's why basically this topic first basically, because world exists, then money exists, then the business exists, then the marriage exists, then the child exists, that is the future creation exists. So world must exist first basically, then basically this everything basically exists. So that's why earthquake topic basically I am taking first. So assume that basically in India basically the big earthquake is going to come after 2 days. Just taking as an example, basically, but really basically the earthquake is not going to come. But lots of people says that 55 country process basically. So one of the person to the India is basically in how many process basically. That is very dangerous basically. This I think many less people might be knowing, because India might be in many process basically. Why? Because Indian population basically, that is the Indian nationality, are in many countries basically. Due to that basically mostly India have to involved in many process. Repeating the word, India have to involved in many process, and mostly they might be involved, and according to that the process basically might be happen. So mostly basically the earthquake which is coming to India basically, that the reason is this only, that is India is involved in many process. Why? Because Indian nationality are there in across the world basically. If you will go to Sri Lanka, there are basically Indian nationality. If you go to UAE, Indian nationality are there. If you go to South Africa, Indian nationality are there. If you go to Australia, Indian nationality are there. If you go to USA, Indian nationality are there. Europe, Indian nationality are there. Each and every country, Italy, Indian nationality are there. Then basically if you go to Bali or basically South Africa, Indian nationality are there. So everywhere the Indian nationality are there. So in process basically they have to involve basically, because there is no option. Why? Because Indian nationality are there basically. So Indian government basically have to involve. That means Indian government basically whenever they takes the decision, that's very dangerous basically, because it's going to affect to whole world basically, wherever the Indian nationality are existing. So the Indian government basically, who are into the advisory department, who are basically into the decision taking, they basically takes decision very carefully. So that is basically everything basically we have discussed long before basically about the Indian government. So here basically what topic we are discussing? Earthquakes. And in earthquake, after 2 days the earthquake is going to come. So one person told that the ideas. So in previous video basically we talked about the ideas. That ideas basically is also one of the biggest earthquake reason basically. One example I will take. In previous video also basically I have taken the example, but in this basically we will take a simple example. One person told that assume that basically in Vadodara 1 kilometer area basically, there chartered accountant energies are dumped. So never basically create the entire area basically in entire ideas in one area. But if you are differentiating the idea, then basically expenses are also there. So that also basically you have to think. So one person told that assume that basically in 1 kilometer area, chartered accountant ideas basically are there. And what is chartered accountant idea? That basically I have discussed long before. Now basically what happened? Somebody from South Africa, or basically somebody from Italy, or basically somebody from UAE. He basically thought something very dangerous idea, which actually touched to the root of chartered accountant. That means in root basically he found some bug, and that bug he recreated, and then according to that bug basically which was recreated, he created entire new chartered accountant syllabus basically, and that connected to something dangerous ideas of the accounting, and in that basically lots of companies profit was basically getting increased, lots of double basically company profit was getting increased. So in this what happened, immediately when that person basically got the connected to idea, Vadodara people basically was not able to track that. Why? That basically need to check. Here basically just taking as an example, basically why they were not able to track, check, each and everything basically we are going to discuss. So he told that Vadodara people not able to track, that person basically generated the idea that he basically implemented in company also. Then basically when the UAE power supply came to India and shifted to Vadodara city, UAE power supply basically, that time that person basically who actually implemented that idea basically of chartered accountant, that also came into form of power supply. Immediately basically the 1 kilometer area got earthquake, means entire Vadodara actually got the earthquake, because if 1 kilometer area gets the earthquake, that is the balancing system basically, so entire Vadodara will get the earthquake, but 1 kilometer area basically is going to get more earthquakes. So that basically shake the entire 1 kilometer area of Vadodara city, and big earthquake basically happened in that area, and disaster basically happened in that area very badly. So this was the one topic that basically we have already discussed, but this basically is in simple format. This way also basically the earthquake happens basically. That is the one thing. Now basically one person told that, like this chartered accountant, he basically connected to one new idea, right? Like this, assume that basically in this world basically daily basically around 1 lakh idea basically are getting generated newly, but that basically doesn't gets implemented in companies. Why? Because in companies basically the top boss basically has decided one system, repeating the word, he has created one system, and that system is what? That boundary, that within this chartered accountant boundary only you have to do the all that stuff. So he decided the boundary, so he basically has not implemented that new ways. Now here the what are the things going to happen basically? What are the things going to happen? From 1 lakh basically assume that around 90 percentage data basically was not implemented, and 10 percentage data was implemented. So the 10 plus percentage data which was implemented, if that is basically connecting to the root of the chartered accountant, then basically the earthquake will be according to that. If it's going to affect some books basically, then small little bit in normal account basically is going to come, but earthquake will come basically whenever the power supply is going to supply from UAE to Dubai, sorry, in Dubai, UAE to India, and from India to Vadodara city. So you can just imagine. Like this, assume that basically the 90% new idea which was not implemented, what is going to happen to that ideas? Because it's going to keeps on processing in the environment. That keeps on processing in the environment. Whenever the some other person basically is going to think about that, he also will connect to that idea, and that also basically idea is going to connect to that person's body. Like this basically the data keeps on processing and to the chartered accountant groups. This was tracked by nuclear power company, energy company, and power company. Now what they are going to do? They will immediately basically going to inform to that Vadodara city that this type of idea basically are getting implemented, but it's not getting implemented. If that they are basically getting implemented within the environment but not in the companies, because companies are legal basically, which is going to generate the human needs, but the environment basically which has generated in the sorry the data which has generated in the environment, that basically is not the legal. So now Vadodara city basically got that information that this type of ideas basically are getting generated in the environment. They immediately, according to the energy basically, they connected to that people also who actually were actually they got the idea. They immediately contacted those people. So just imagine basically the ideas which are getting implemented but not implemented by the companies, it is getting generated in the environment. That energy was tracked basically, and they basically tracked to track that person also basically who actually got this idea. You will not believe how dangerous the world and the technology basically has reached. So one of the person told that nowadays the war basically which is going to happen basically, that will be the energy level war. People basically head will damage, leg will damage, eye will damage. Why? Through energy, because they can connect to the particular person na basically. For example, one person basically, I am chartered accountant, assume that way. I am not chartered accountant basically, I am BCom and 22 plus software industry experience and not working, and basically not working. So he told that not working in the companies basically. So one of the person told that ideas basically is going to generate in the environment and which was not implemented, and that was tracked by the Vadodara city. That group basically tracked. Now what they are going to do? Because they tracked that person also basically. That this person energy, from this person energy, the idea was generated. So you can just imagine this is the most dangerous weapon basically you can say, because you connected to one single person energy. That means you can do anything basically to that particular person. You can damage his nose, you can damage his head, you can damage his eye, you can damage his hand, you can do anything basically, and that's basically very dangerous. So here basically we generated lots of things basically, lots of projects also basically got generated. So here what was the thing basically? So one person told that here basically idea basically got to the Vadodara city. So they are going to do the analysis, right? First of all, they have to do the analysis that what the chartered accountant degree, what the chartered accountant syllabus basically is generating in the environment, and how basically the power companies, energy company, nuclear power company are generating which type of human needs. That basically they have collected. Now basically the analysis reached to the level that the new idea which was basically implemented in the environment, if you will implement that new idea with the old ideas, anything is going to affect. If it's going to affect something big basically, then they will but they will never ignore the ideas. Why? Because it will connect to many peoples basically if you will ignore that idea, and that will connect to lots of big problems also in future basically. So he will 100% going to implement that ideas, but that idea basically will be in the form of, if it's a something new basically ideas, then if something big new ideas is basically there, then the Vadodara area of the chartered accountant only basically will get it. If it is implemented by the companies, basically legally everything basically happens. That was not implemented, so basically the earthquake will not happen. If it is implemented without informing the Vadodara city, they basically implemented, assume that basically they inform also, but they thought that basically it will not happen something basically. But this was new earthquake type basically, we can say. Immediately that area got washed out. So now basically new idea have to implement. Why? Because old idea is completely washed out. But few 90% basically idea which was not implemented. So what are the things going to happen? So they will implement basically. they will do that some adjustment basically, and they will 100% do the implementation after certain time basically, because they have to create the physical area also basically for that particular new ideas, and they have to implement the new ideas books also, no, basically chartered accountant syllabus book is already created, so they have to change the entire syllabus basically, and that basically is very rare, happens very rare basically, because nowadays to create to clear the chartered accountant degree only basically, how it's tough basically. If any 200 people give the interview, sorry, give the chartered accountant syllabus basically, or they give the chartered accountant if they want to clear the chartered accountant certification, they give the exam. From 200, one people basically gets clear. That also basically I have told basically something big number, but actually it is like this. Sometimes basically from 1,000 basically one people gets clear. So the new idea basically that is very, 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 very rare basically happens. But happens basically. For that basically Vadodara have to be always be ready. That is the Vadodara chartered accountant groups basically who actually created the chartered accountant ideas equal to that chartered accountant books basically, who actually implemented that chartered accountant books in that area basically, that is the 1 kilometer area in the form of area creation basically. So you can just imagine basically each and every place basically are very, how basically it's basically, you can say basically I'm not getting any word basically, if you can say that it's a infinity dangerous areas basically, which basically where the ideas are getting used, where the human needs are getting used from the areas. So how you can just imagine basically how dangerous, but everything is basically filtered basically, that is the thing basically you have to always keep in mind basically, because people don't know that basically that area is generating some idea, which is idea is going to generate potato, so that people don't know basically, people will go there basically, but the filter area, because if they are using that particular group basically and the people's data also, that basically then the human needs basically might create problem basically, so they basically clears everything basically, they keeps each and every data basically very in filter format basically, so that's why basically they tracks each and every data basically, and this everything is connecting to data science projects basically. This is the biggest data science project also you can say basically. So here basically just in this video only basically we generated again few projects of the data science basically, projects for the data science. So you can just imagine basically, so one person told that from chartered accountant degree basically you explained lots of it, so you can replace the chartered accountant degree with MCA degree also, with MBA degree also, with, but MBA degree, this everything basically are in MBA degree basically lots of people get clear basically, so there also basically more idea basically gets generates, but everything is tracked. Why? Because when you clear the MBA, for example, you when you clear the MBA system, assume that basically, and you are basically a software professional and you are basically working as a project manager or delivery head, so when you basically is going to implement that MBA system into your, when you are going to create some new project basically, that time basically you will 100% going to implement that MBA system. Why? If you are not going to implement basically, your blood only going to implement automatically basically, you are, when you are going to think basically, that MBA system will automatically come basically, you don't have to do anything basically, that's that type of basically the system basically has created inside the body basically. So the MBA system created, so it might possible that basically when you create any system basically, that time something new basically gets generated in MBA system basically, MBA system syllabus basically. So nowadays basically power company, energy company, and the companies basically always keeps on watching the laptops, computers of the each and every employees. Up to that level system basically are created, you will not imagine basically. because whenever the basically they gets the idea, they basically implements in computer. Whenever one person basically is doing the coding, so he basically tracks. Whenever one person basically is doing the project management plan or creating the project management plan, or basically he done something basically in documentation, basically he got some new documentation, immediately basically it gets tracked. One person basically implemented some new business ideas, so he immediately gets tracked basically. One person basically was doing some MBA, MCA, that time basically he created something new basically, which connected to syllabus basically, but it was new idea basically. So nowadays the software companies, mostly basically 98 percentage software company keeps watch keeps watching basically their employees computer basically, what the employee is doing basically, what the employee is doing. And if that person basically is doing something very dangerous, they immediately terminates that employee basically. This happens basically, yeah, basically, but they just uh, they just want one chance basically. If he will do some mistake, immediately basically they will fire it basically. Why? Because he was doing something very dangerous in the computer basically, which is going to affect the entire energy. So that's why basically they, nowadays basically nobody takes the risk basically. They immediately fires basically. But he was actually doing something very dangerous thing basically. He was actually doing something very dangerous thing basically. Company fires. Company fires basically. That is 100%. Few company basically takes the chance and they basically implements it. But that basically only 2 to 3 percentage company only takes this type of actions basically. The rest of company they basically literally fires basically. They literally fires. So you can just imagine basically. How dangerous the world has reached. And related to this new idea basically, that is basically very dangerous. And mostly basically the new idea which I basically just told us now basically, in real life basically it's not implemented, but just I am taking the databases, because in future basically you have to implement this type of thing basically, because it will destroy entire chartered accountant area basically. That here basically I have taken the example of chartered accountant basically. In real basically it can be MBA, it can be MCA, it can be MTech, it can be BTech, anything basically. Because each and every human needs basically are generated from this education system only basically. You will not believe, you will not able to believe basically. You will not able to believe basically. So this new idea basically which just now I told basically, that is basically not implemented in the real life basically, in any of the sector basically. Any of the sector means any of the education sector basically. And that basically is the new thing basically, which energy, nuclear power company and the power companies and the companies, and then the each and every education owners basically are there. For example, chartered accountant is there na? So chartered accountant basically have one ownership basically. In that owner basically he takes the decision basically. So you can just imagine basically, it's like this basically, each and every degree basically have owner basically. One BCom degree is there, he that also basically have one owner. So you can just imagine basically up to what level the things has reached. So here basically what we were discussing, we were discussing new ideas which is going to connect to earthquake, how basically that we have already shown. But the company basically is there, so company basically if implements then only basically gets the earthquake, and this type of thing basically connects to earthquake. But the new idea which I told basically, implementation basically has to happen, that basically mostly basically never happens. Why? Because it's very difficult and it's very dangerous also, because it's connected. For example, chartered accountant degree basically 1 kilometer area is there. Chartered accountant 1 crore people basically are has done the chartered accountant degree. Their body is generating the energy. their body is generating potato, or their body is generating vegetables energy. Vegetables are used by crores of people. Then basically immediately if you do something basically in the changes in the chartered accountant degree areas, that is the 1 kilometer area, that means it's going to affect to entire world basically. But if it's new and basically it's going to do, and if basically somebody has done the perfect analysis basically that this is going to give some good benefits in the vegetables, then basically they implement this basically. So you can just imagine the vegetables basically are created from the chartered accountant education basically. Chartered accountant education basically. You can't believe this. The world basically has reached up to this level basically. So here actually what we are talking, earthquake is going to come after 2 days. So this everything basically just I talked basically. That basically is also one of the type of earthquake. But in earthquake basically nobody has tracked that basically. This earthquake basically came from which idea basically. For example, chartered accountant degree basically, that group basically thought and something implemented immediately in company. Immediately basically earthquake basically connected. So the earthquake department basically don't know that basically the earthquake basically came on due to chartered accountant degree basically. This type of minor level changes, minor level tracking basically nobody in this world basically has done this basically. But one of the person told that if we will do this type of minor level tracking basically, is there any benefits? So it's there, na benefit is there basically. You can reach to that new idea basically which was implemented. If you will not track basically up to this level, then that new idea which was implemented by the company basically, that company which has implemented that idea in that company basically, that idea which was got by some one person basically, that will not come into the chartered accountant syllabus basically. If it has, the earthquake has not tracked basically. If earthquake will track that basically up to the chartered accountant degree basically due to this chartered accountant degree implementation, the new things basically which was implemented by the one of the company, and this idea basically was one of the chartered accountant person. If it was not tracked, if it was tracked, then means up to this level basically tracking system is not created. That only basically I want to say in simple language, that up to minor level that earthquake basically system tracking has not done basically. And this basically earthquake system group basically who is handling the earthquake system basically, they have to do this basically. Up to this minor level basically earthquake tracking you have to do basically. Then only basically the syllabus changes happens, the education system basically gets changed, lots of thing basically happens, and lots of changes also happens. So you can just imagine basically what are the things going to happen basically. One person told that company में तो implement हो गया है basically. The company basically implemented it, but it doesn't came to chartered accountant syllabus na basically. And if it has came basically, and the 1 kilometer area was not modified basically, this everything basically is there na basically. But he said it has implemented in the company basically, it has implemented in the company, but it has not implemented in the chartered accountant syllabus. So you can just imagine up to what level the education system is basically. Here basically I have just taken the example of chartered accountant, but in real project management plan degree is there, management level plan degree is there, CEO degree is there. Just now basically I basically attended one CEO degree course, few seminar basically of how basically you can clear the chartered CEO chief executive officers course basically, how you can basically do the course and what is the fees. This the one seminar basically I attended. So that group also basically vice president group, then the each and every things basically are there. So each and every education system basically, each and every education system basically in this world basically, how many education system basically are? From nursery to 12th standard, then 12th to graduation. In graduation, basically many sectors basically are there: science, commerce, and arts. In that art, each and every sector basically there are many big level of degrees. Master degrees are there, that degrees are there. So each and every people basically they do their jobs. Basically, in that job basically they connects to new ideas. Basically, connects to new idea that is basically 100%. Few company basically implements also, but few company doesn't. Why? Because their boss basically has already created the system basically, and within that system only basically you have to work basically. This thing basically you have to do. That means you have to do this thing only basically. You can't think your ideas basically. You can't implement it your idea. You basically are not supposed to think only basically. So this type of system basically are created. But few basically companies says that basically you can think up to that level. So they basically gets new ideas and they implements in their company, but that doesn't comes into the education level basically. If company has implemented, that means the power supply is going to supply to. Here basically I have taken the example of chartered accountant. Earthquake will 100% happen. Why? Because the company has implemented. When the company has implemented, that means it's a legal basically. That's a legal thing basically. So data basically of the power supply is going to be taken from that company basically, and it's going to implement to Vadodara, and immediately earthquake will happen. So education level earthquakes in each and every degree level changes basically happens in the company. They implements the power supply basically collects from their area. Immediately basically the areas of the education degree basically gets connect basically. Immediately basically earthquake happens. But some big level basically earthquake basically happens very rare basically. Why? Because big level implementation basically very less people can do. Why? Because one chartered accountant degree to clear chartered accountant degree basically from 201 people basically can clear na basically. Then how basically they are going to think something new idea basically. That is also there na basically. That is also there. So you can just imagine basically at to what level the things are basically connected. So like this, assume that basically in this world basically there are around 1 crore education sector. 1 crore education sector ne basically you can say education, types of education you can say, or not types of education. We will give some simple word degree basically. BCom degree, BA degree, MCom degree, this degree, BTech degree, MCA degree, ME degree, MTech degree, MCom degree, BCom degree, BA degree, MA degree, then basically the 10th degree, 12th degree, nursery, junior KG from 12th standard, this, that, basically each and every degrees basically. BTech, MTech, B, ME. So each and every degrees basically, people basically working in the company, they gets connect to new ideas. So lots of people says that few the earthquake basically the 20 to 30 to 35 percentage earthquake basically which is coming across the world, which is coming in the world and basically that is this only basically. That reason for that is this only basically is the reason basically. So one of the person told that we don't have the system here basically which will track up to the education, up to this education level, earthquake level basically. Earthquake what to say basically, up to education level earthquakes data basically, because there is no system created basically by the earthquake tracking group basically. They have not created basically. So mostly basically if anybody creates then basically it's good. Why? Because the syllabus will get changed basically. But that happens very rare basically, because to understand syllabus only basically how it's difficult basically. Nowadays to clear the exam only basically how it's difficult. To understand the syllabus, understand the course, understand everything basically, and do job in company basically. That's how much difficult now basically. That's why basically each and every level of companies basically creates their system basically. For example, private limited company, ISA level company, public limited company, CMM level 5 company, CMM level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 company, 6 Sigma company, then the black belt company. Like this, each and every companies basically are there. They have their own system basically. They basically works in, the boss basically is there. He basically says that this way, this system basically, this is the system basically. In that system basically you have to work. For example, same level 5 company, they have their own implementation basically. That this is the documentation format, this is the project specification format, this is the UTC format, this is the project management plan format, this is the project proposal format, this is the scope format, this is the UTC format, this is the communication management plan format, this is the scope level plan, this is the communication level plans, this is the quality level documentation plans, this is the implementation level plan. Each and every plans basically are already defined. So you have to work in that only. Why? Because the lots of auditing basically also happens basically of the documentation. That why basically you have added this basically. This was not there basically in the documentation. Then why you added? Auditor basically comes into the picture. But mostly 98% company basically never implements the new idea. They always rejects that document basically. Mostly basically 98%. So you can just imagine. So here basically we are talking about the new ideas are basically getting implemented and implemented in companies. Companies are legal basically to take the energies from the the power companies are basically the power company basically gets the source, that is the legal source. In legal source with the power company, energy company and nuclear power company, they basically have the legal source from where basically they can collect the energy. So that legal source basically, one of the legal sources is companies. So companies basically implementing, so they basically takes the data basically, they can't ignore the data. So you can just imagine basically up to what level the things are connected. They implements the data, they implements the ideas. New idea basically gets implemented by the education level basically. Because one person basically is a B, he basically is good into B, he basically got some 90% in B education. He jumped into the software industry, he basically connected these, that basically, then basically connected to some new ideas. Company basically implemented that new ideas also. But here basically his education was B. So his B areas are also going to affect. And he was basically into software industry. So his software industry is also going to get affected. Software industry's areas basically. Up to what level he basically has done the creation in the ideas. Sometimes basically text box equal to 1000 cities, that data also gets changed. Sometimes basically, but that very rare happens. So you can just imagine basically, I am basically not telling to imagine basically, but it's so dangerous to implement the new ideas in the environment basically. You will not believe this, I am telling you basically. It's very dangerous basically to implement any ideas into the environment, because it's connecting to the big level of earthquakes basically. You will not believe this basically. Big level of earthquakes are going to connect basically. You will not be able to believe that basically. I am telling you basically. Not I am basically. You can say, you can ask basically to the nuclear power companies also basically. You can ask to the power companies also. You can ask to the energy companies also basically. You can ask to the big software companies also basically, who actually know this everything basically. Who actually know the earthquake system basically. So to run one company basically, I am telling you, it's very dangerous. To run one company basically, it's very dangerous. But power companies, nuclear power company, energy companies takes those data only basically who are registered. And registered means private limited company. So in private limited company, minimum employee will be how much basically? 30, 35 basically. 35 basically employee will be minimum basically. So he will be well educated, well growth, wealth person basically. Wealth means money level wealth basically. Then only basically he can able to afford the 35 employees, na basically. Then only his 35 employees. That means basically minimum 35 to 40 lakh salary basically you have to give, and other expense basically are there. So 50 lakh basically is the minimum expense to run that private limited company. He might be getting up to that level profit also basically. That's why basically he's affording that's why basically he's affording 50 lakh expense. Otherwise basically why he will basically afford that expense basically. If anybody is doing the expense, that means he is getting the income also. That's why basically he's doing the efforts na basically. Otherwise basically who will be going to do the efforts basically? That is also one thing na basically. That is also one thing basically. So you can just imagine basically the world basically has reached up to very 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 dangerous level. You will not able to believe that basically. But up to this level tracking basically nobody in this world basically has done. So that tracking basically you have to do the implementation basically. If you will do the, because nowadays basically lots of people say the syllabus basically are not getting changed, not getting changed. They are getting changed. How basically? From this data only basically they are getting changed. When they are basically getting implemented basically. So few company basically know that basically, that if they will implement any ideas in the company basically, company means 35 more than 35 employees basically, that type of company basically. Normal company basically data are taken basically, but implementation basically happens very rare basically. So nowadays basically the companies the companies need nowadays basically the nuclear power company energies and the energy companies and the power companies and the nuclear power companies, they takes the data and they immediately implements also basically, but they basically never able to track the this type of level data basically, because the technique and the mechanism also basically might not be there basically. But the nuclear power company might be tracking. Why? Because they have to track basically. If they will not track up to this level, then basically they are doing something wrong basically. But that is not possible basically. Why? Because if up to this level basically the error basically might be there, then world basically might have ended long before basically. So up to this level basically error basically might not be there in the nuclear power company and energy companies, because that is not possible. That is not possible. So one of the person told that is not possible. So you can just imagine basically up to what level the world basically has reached. Not basically imagine, basically you can just think it na basically. I will take one example basically. Then only basically it will more easy to think basically. One person basically cleared the chartered accountant degree or basically MCA basically. You will take some other degree also basically. Every time basically chartered accountant example basically is not good. So here basically we will take that BTech or MTech or MCA degree basically. Here basically we will take some software example. One person told that he got the degree. One person, assume that basically few people basically have that. And they basically cleared in 90% basically, 90%, 95% basically. Because in MCA basically, this type of grade basically are given basically. MCA basically, percentage are not given but grades are given. So here basically we will take that basically it's a percentage. BTech also. So few students basically cleared the each and every paper, that also in 90%. They started their journey, because if new ideas are basically connecting, This level people only basically can connect basically, but few people basically are not in the education level good, but they are good into the professional side basically. There are many peoples basically who were basically not into good into the education side, but they were good into professional side. They connected to new ideas. So you can't ignore any of the person basically. In this world basically, you can't ignore any of the person. Basically. That's why basically the power company, energy company keeps on correcting the data basically. So the new idea basically which was implemented by the company, they basically implemented. After the implementation only basically the power company, energy company and nuclear power company basically got the information basically. Then only basically they got the information basically. So few people told that the CRM system basically, you told that basically power company and nuclear power company and energy companies sent the data to the power company, and then basically they thought that is also one of the way basically. But here the thing is totally different. So that is also one of the way of earthquake basically. So one of the person told that if you track the earthquake system basically, you will get everything basically, each and every detailed system basically you can able to understand. You can able to understand the detailed level of system basically. That up to this level system basically has generated from the earthquake system only basically. From the earthquake system only up to this level detailed system basically has generated. So you can just imagine basically. I basically can't able to imagine. Why? Because it's very difficult, na basically. It's very difficult to understand only basically, because to understand basically 1 degree basically, how it's difficult basically. To clear 1 degree, that also in percentage wise, how it's difficult. How it's difficult to understand that 1 degree only basically. So you can just imagine basically to understand 1 degree basically, it's up to very dangerous level. So new idea basically, that's very rare happens basically. And company implements also basically very rare basically. Because to implement any new idea basically, you should know na basically what that person basically is telling basically. Then only you can able to understand the and you can implement na basically. If you are not able to understand the thing basically, logical thing basically, ideas basically are, each and every ideas are basically logically connected basically. You have to understand the thing basically, then only basically you can implement. You have to understand the thing, then only basically you can implement. And after implementation basically you have to give the definition also basically, that this is the definition, this, then basically you have to, because people basically is not going to see the practical videos basically, that this way basically he has done, that way he has done. They are going to see in the book only basically. And books are basically connected with full of definitions, stories, this, that, each and everything. Because in books basically you can write that basically this is the video like this basically, this has happened, like this basically implemented new ideas. That basically in books basically you can't write na basically. In books you can write basically, you can write no basically. In books basically you can't write. So for that you have to write in definition way, that also basically in very understandable language. So that basically while writing basically you don't have, you basically will some mismatch of word will happen and the entire idea basically gets changed. That type of thing also basically happens. So in every books basically, that's why basically the few diagrams are also given basically. By chance basically one person basically was not able to read properly, so at least basically from diagram he can able to understand basically. From diagram basically, by chance basically he read something wrong way basically. He read it in some wrong way, and after wrong way basically he understood that basically, yeah, this was wrong way basically. When he basically understood that, when he connected to the diagram basically. In diagram basically it's like that basically. So when you create the books basically, of the new idea basically, not new idea basically, every book basically, any books basically when you create, it's connecting to this way only. You have to write this way only basically, and that basically each and every books basically writes only basically. That is basically the old fashion basically of the books basically, and they basically writes basically in that way only basically. So one of the person told that the earthquake basically which is going to come, which is coming basically, which is going to come after 2 days, if anybody can track that na basically up to detail level of the data basically, that is the educational level data basically, then basically you can able to understand thing basically, and that very rare group basically can do that basically. It's very difficult to track basically, it's not easy basically. How basically you can able to understand that this earthquake basically which is going to come na basically, that is coming due to that company basically, and that company basically one person basically got that boss basically implemented some new ideas na basically, that idea is going to connect to that area, and that area basically is going to generate some earthquakes. That is not possible here basically up to that detail level investigation basically, to track up to that level basically, that's very difficult basically, but few people basically go up to that level also, but system basically is not created basically. Few people says that the company has created, right basically. Few people says that the company to ban chuka hai, company has already created, so government basically might not be tracking that basically, they might be 100% tracking basically what is going inside the company. Nowadays basically you will not believe it basically, the government has reached up to that level basically, that they tracks what actually it's going in the company basically. You will not believe it, that is for example, in Accenture inside the company, in that cabin basically what that person is doing, that government is knowing basically, that that person is basically doing this type of work, and he is basically implementing these all ideas basically. Sometimes basically the company owner basically miss, but the government basically doesn't miss, they basically never miss. Why? Because if earthquake is going to come, that area is going to affect, so government basically have to do the expense na basically, they have to recreate everything basically, it's their expense na basically, so they are going to do the burden of their expense basically, that they have to do some expense this that basically, they will never do basically, mostly they will never do. Why? Because government have to clearly identify everything basically in accounts basically, that is the in India account basically. If they will not implement, sorry, they if they will not allocate, then basically it creates problem in auditing basically, and in auditing basically they will track that basically, that you basically you are not not basically in that time basically when the this idea basically was implemented in the company basically, that time basically what you company basically, what the government, for example, in Vadodara city BJP is ruling, some new idea basically implemented, that idea basically power company also basically captured the ideas, sorry, the data basically of the power data basically was collected by the power company, energy company, and the nuclear power company. They basically immediately sent that company's idea to that area basically, where from the base of the changes basically happened, that area basically got earthquake, that area got earthquake. Government basically got the auditing basically of the earthquake, they basically done the auditing of the earthquake, that time basically they track that basically due to that company basically up to this level basically company, the government also has not reached basically, the auditing basically which I am telling up to the detail level of company level, they have not reached up to this level. I am just telling it basically, government basically done the auditing, they basically track that basically due to this company basically they have implemented some new ideas, that idea data was captured by power company, energy company, and nuclear power company. Due to this basically they send this data of the energy to that area, and that area basically got earthquake. Why? Because new idea basically was connecting to some more benefits basically. Here basically benefits can be anything basically, benefits can be anything, benefits can be in the form of energy benefit can be in form of the monetary. For example, one person basically designed some new chartered accountant way basically sorry, he basically implemented something new way in the chartered accountant degree basically, or basically in the company basically, which affected basically company profit basically, which connected to company profit basically, that also 35 percentage profit basically got increased due to his idea basically, which was implemented and he was basically chartered accountant person basically, and he was basically into handling the companies basically. So here basically it was the monetary expense basically, sorry, the monetary profit basically. Same way, this can be created to asset basically. So the other sector also, that is the energy level sector, company profile sector, that is the company management sector basically got affected. There also basically profit was there, because if you, the 35 percentage of profit was getting increased, that means the company sector also got connected na basically. So companies also will get they are going to implement this, they are going to do the modification. Then basically the education sector basically are going to do the modification of the syllabus basically, how we actually done this. So everywhere everything basically is connected, but this has not implemented basically by the government. The thing basically which now I am telling as a user story is, and lots of task basically has to be created which can be implemented into the project, that basically not a single basic this thing basically just now I discussed basically, that is not implemented practically basically. Up to education level basically, the earthquake tracking system has not created. So in future basically, if you are basically creating, then basically you have to create basically. And mostly basically people do that basically, it's not like that basically the people is not doing it basically. People are doing the implementation basically, people are doing the implementation basically, but that basically very rare basically, they have to take lots of permission. For example, one chartered accountant degree basically got some new ideas, so company implements that basically. The chartered accountant degree basically, who are the 1 kilometer areas, they also do it basically, but that basically very rare basically, few people basically do very rarely basically, because the chain system basically, from that 1 kilometer area vegetable is getting created, that vegetable is used by more than 100 crore people, and the expense of the changes basically is going to affect to very dangerous level, because nuclear power company and the energy company have to collect more extra data, so their expense will increase, the student burden will increase. Then if the student burden will increase, nobody will do the chartered accountant degree, so less fees will come from the chartered accountant area. So education sector level increase, education fees structure level increase, fees structure will get goes down, the government tax department will get increased, because whenever the students are paying the money, certain level of monies are going to the government sector also. So each and every business chain will get effect. So very less basically the implementation happens basically, very less the implementation happens basically. So one of the person told that very less the implementation happens basically. So you can just imagine basically up to what level the earthquake basically are connected, up to the minor level. This is the minor level tracking basically, and this basically nobody has done that. They basically say that basically this is the magnitude of earthquake and this has came to this particular country. That's all basically, their tasks are done basically, but nobody do the minor level of tracking basically, that the earthquake which was came to that particular country basically, that is connecting to this level of this education basically, due to this education level basically, and due to this sector level education, sorry, the due to that technological side or basically whatever basically. For example, one person is BE and he basically into software industry, so here basically two things connected, one is education level at earthquakes and another is sector level earthquake. So sector is software industry, So software level earthquake basically comes, and education, that is the B level education comes. So two level education earthquake basically is going to be next. So earthquake will be more magnitude basically, or it can be less also. Why? Because there are two things basically. One is B level earthquake basically has came, that is the B education, and another earthquake basically is of software industry basically. So here it's connected to two things basically. So you can just imagine basically. So one of the person told that the education level earthquake basically has connected this way basically, and this everything basically minor level thing basically are supposed to be tracked, but government basically might be doing also basically, because nowadays they are watching each and every companies basically, what the companies, software companies doing inside the cabin basically, not inside the company basically, they are going up to the cabin level. You will not believe it basically, what that person basically is doing inside the cabin basically. So they basically track up to the cabin level basically, because when the auditing basically of the earthquake was happened basically, that time basically they told that basically when this implementation basically was ongoing of this new idea basically, what you are doing basically. So that question basically connected to this new system basically, that is you have to watch the companies and what they are doing basically. So one person told that one company basically, if one person basically is running one company, up to what level the expense government do basically, because to watch basically that company, people basically also have to be recruited basically, people also basically has to be recruited there basically, because nothing happens automatically. So in Accenture company, to keep watch basically what that person basically is doing, what that company area people basically are doing, so for that basically you have to recruit the people also basically, because if I by chance basically you told that basically we captures the each and every cameras views basically, and then basically we see that basically what that person basically has done, and up to what level things basically he has done basically. So for that, then also basically the cameras basically are getting viewed, for that basically employee is not required. So on the base of one company basically, up to what level expense basically the government do basically. Why? Because they have to do basically. Why? Because that chartered accountant area basically was finished due to this new idea basically. If it's a big level of idea basically, if it's a normal idea, then basically nothing is going to happen. So here basically what we discussed in this topic basically, what we have discussed in this topic basically, we discussed that basically the new level of earthquake tracking system government have to create. Government says the earthquake site basically says that what earthquake basically happened in this country, this is the magnitude, this is the land, this is the area of that city, and this is the country, this is the state, and the area basically which got the earthquake, that is connected to that particular landowner, and the buildings owners are these all, and the companies owners are these all, that's all basically. But nobody do up to this level also basically, they will just say basically in this city basically the earthquake has came, that's all basically. Up to minor level basically nobody goes basically, up to minor level basically earthquake basically nobody goes basically. So you can just imagine basically up to what level things basically are connecting. That is basically the biggest earthquake level system. So one of the person told that if one country basically is having the earthquake system basically, you also know basically, if he is controlling the earthquake system basically, and basically if he is telling that basically, if we have one software which is tracking minor level of earthquake data also, that company basically that software basically will run the entire country basically. So you can just imagine basically one software can run the entire company, sorry, entire country basically. because minor level data basically are given, and you can't imagine the income basically, because each and every sector basically are connected. Chartered accountant degree connected, then the each and every area connected, the city connected, the state connected, country connected, then the 1 crore people also connected. The 1 crore people basically are doing the work in the particular companies, and their sectors basically connected. So there each and every area basically got connected basically. You will not able to believe it basically. So one of the person told that it's a very dangerous system basically, that is the earthquake level system basically. You can't able to believe it basically. You can't believe this basically. Lots of people say that you basically can't able to believe it basically. You basically can't able to believe this basically. So you can just able to understand basically what actually I want to say basically. So here basically in this video basically lots of project basically got generated. You will basically not able to believe it basically. Lots of new projects got generated, lots of new system basically got generated for the government. Government basically say that basically yes basically we, because company basically are watched by the government, that basically you have to believe it basically. Companies are continuously watching by the governments. There are many critical company basically, therefore that basically special government people basically are keeping watch to that particular company basically, because it is going to affect to entire country. That's why basically they continuously watching that company basically, what that company basically each and every employees are doing. But that very rare basically company basically, very rare companies basically, for that very rare companies, for that rare companies the government do the expense basically. For the special company basically, that basically you can give as a special company name basically. For the special company, people basically has recruited and they are basically doing their task. So you can just imagine basically, because that is going to affect to entire the area, 1 kilometer area basically. Here I have taken the example of a chartered accountant degree basically, because they keeps on implementing the new ideas basically. So basically if they will keeps on implementing new ideas basically, power companies will takes on keeping, sorry, they keeps on taking the ideas data directly basically, they will send to the particular country. That country will get the big earthquakes basically. For that basically auditing happens, lots of things basically happens basically. For that basically you have to give the answer basically. So that's why basically if any company basically keeps on doing the changes of the each and every sectors basically, each and everything basically, so the companies are basically directly watched by the governments basically. So you can just imagine basically, because it's affecting basically the entire country. So you can just imagine up to what level the things are connected. One of the person told that this minor level tracking basically earthquake system basically, that also minor means education level basically tracking of the earthquake system basically, up to education level earthquake system has tracked here basically. Due to this education and due to this company and due to this particular person and due to this ideas, the earthquake has came basically. So you can just imagine basically up to whatever the things are already connected basically. And this everything is already implemented basically. But tracking system basically most of basically might be implemented, but it has not came into the picture basically. So you can just imagine basically. So here basically what we talk, just one topic, that is the educational level system, which is connecting to the earthquakes basically. which is connecting to the earthquakes. So this is also one of the person told that this is also one of the part of earthquake. This is also one of the part of earthquakes. This is also one of the part of earthquake. So you can't be able to believe it basically. So in next video basically we are going to see a little bit more about this topic, that is the SBI banks and its groups. Second is Amazon groups and their achievements. And the third topic what which was very dangerous and which is actually very dangerous. After 2 days the big earthquake is going to come to India basically. So that topic actually which is ongoing and which is connecting to the India account.